Good morning, fellow colleagues. I am here to introduce the behaviors and effects of the human body when interacting with forces, as well as artificial prosthetics, through the use of biomechanics, the study of mechanical laws relating to organisms. The forces that we experience from our day-to-day lives are physical contact and gravitational forces, as they can create compression, tension, and shear stress on the human body. But what are those behaviors? Well, compression is the act of aligned forces in opposing direction to each other. For instance, the weight of a human body exerts a force downwards onto the bones of the lower leg due to gravity, and there is a normal force that is acting upwards through the bones of the feet, therefore resulting in compression of the lower leg. Tension, however, is the act of aligned forces in opposite direction to each other. For example, exercising can stretch the muscles or the tendons of the human body by applying tensile forces, which is a result of tension. And shear stress is the act of unaligned forces in opposing direction to each other. I will demonstrate this concept with a laser pointer. I will put this laser pointer on the palm of my hand and rub it. This will cause shear stress on my hand and the bottom of the laser pointer itself. And if the lower surface area of the laser pointer is stationary and attached to my hand, the unaligned force acting along the longitudinal direction of the laser pointer, which is causing the deformation of the laser pointer, will be shear stress. These forces of action can alter the shape of the human body, and therefore its center of mass, since it is defined as the balancing point of a mass. And while these forces act on the human body, then it is said to behave in under stress conditions. And for it to withstand such stress, a larger cross-sectional area is required. Now, as you can see from this diagram, there is a higher stress in the thin elastic band than compared to the thick elastic due to its thickness. And there is also a higher deformation of the thin elastic band than compared to the thick elastic, which is defined as strain. Therefore, stress is relatively proportionate to strain. Furthermore, a stress versus strain graph can be produced, which is in four regions. The toe region is the first region and does not effectively damage any organic structures. The elastic region is the second region and moderately imitates geometric deformation with the cause of increasing loads, but without causing deformation of the tissues, but without causing permanent deformation of the tissues. The plastic region, however, is the third region, which represents the increasing loads and deformation, resulting in progressive failure and microscopic tearing, and even potentially causing a permanent deformation of the tissues. The failure region is the last region, which ultimately results in mechanical failure of the organic structures, which may be represented by a bone fracture, for instance. And the area of each of these graphs is classified as the strain energy, which follows the principles of the conservation of energy and is defined as the work being done on straining materials. And also, as you can see, the increasing gradient of this graph depicts that of the organic structure's stiffness, which is the inability to move out of shape or deform. The greater the gradient, the greater the stiffness of the organic structures. This theory was proven by Young's modulus, by showing mathematically the value for stiffness is determined by dividing the stress by the strain, hence Young's modulus. For example, for the human bone, it is 80 gigapascals. Um, it is 80 gigapascals. And obviously, we don't ever want to reach the plastic region. So in order to delay or mitigate permanent deformation of the tissues, the stiffness of the organic structures must be increased by increasing the overall consumption of calcium and vitamins, or else this can happen. This image is a comparison of the density and stiffness of a healthy bone and an osteoporotic bone due to the consumption of calcium. However, there is another factor that can sway the efficiency of the organic structures in terms of stiffness, which is the concept of levers. A simple lever requires three variables, which are effort, fulcrum, and load. The effort is the force being applied onto the lever. The fulcrum is the axis of the lever. And the load is essentially the weight that's on the lever. And there are three classes of the lever, as you can see. But to be able to make the most of the lever's efficiency, it purely relies on the effort arm and the load arm. The effort arm refers to the distance between the effort and the fulcrum, and vice versa for the load arm. The greater the effort arm and lesser the load arm, the greater the overall efficiency of the lever. Therefore, the class of the lever will determine its level of efficiency. To apply this theory in biomechanics, an example of an arm as a third-class lever will be demonstrated. In this instance, the fulcrum is the axis of the elbow joint. The load is the individual weight on the hand, and the effort is the muscles or bicep tendon. And as you can see, the load arm is significantly greater than the effort arm, which indicates that the muscles would need to work harder by applying more effort into the lever. This puts the arm at a mechanical disadvantage. But what if we didn't have limbs to begin with? Well, in that case, artificial prosthetics um, artificial prosthetics come in place. Since recently, there has been revolutionary breakthrough development in terms of augmentation, such as artificial intelligence and robotics. Uh, Artificial prosthetics are also created through 3D printing with a wide variety of materials, such as carbon fiber, thermoplastics, and even titanium. However, there are many considerations of implanting prosthetic limbs, which are the considerations of um, which are the locations of the organic structures and the patient's overall health condition. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you all for listening.